Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here again for another episode of the Conscious Living Podcast. I am so excited and enthused to have this conversation with you every week. And I'm just so grateful that you tune in, that you're committed to living a more awakened, more aware, more conscious life, that you're one of the people who is making a difference in raising the vibe, raising the consciousness on this planet. And today I have someone with us who is uber committed to that vision of raising the vibe on the planet, raising consciousness, and particularly in the domain of abundance, which many of you know who are my listeners is near and dear to my heart. Elaine Starling is going to be joining us today. She calls herself the Abundance Ambassador. What a great thing to be an ambassador of abundance. She's an international author, TEDx speaker, the host of the Abundance Journey podcast. And she's also a best-selling international author to the 5 Steps to Activate Your Abundance. Elaine's own spiritual awakening led her down this path of doing this work, and she has an incredible story to tell about it. So I am so looking forward to diving in today with you, Elaine Starling. It's great to have you. Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I love chatting with you. I get such a kick out of where you're coming from. And it's really funny because it really feels to me like when you talk about consciousness, it's like you're quoting Shakespeare because of your background and your expertise. And when I talk about consciousness, I'm quoting Bugs Bunny. So, we have a very different style, but it's all the same thing, just from different directions, different angles. And that gives people a whole new awareness, experience, an opportunity to understand on their own. Because it's not enough for us to understand, they got to understand.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm flattered or offended by that, but because Bugs Bunny is super cute and interesting, and Shakespeare is about as boring as it gets. But I'm going to take it as a compliment to me that I'm speaking from a high level and
yes,
background to it. And I love your Bugs Bunny analogy. What you bring to it, Elaine, is just such heart and such soul. So let's dive right in. I'm really looking forward to hearing about what led you down this path and this work. And you talk about your own awakening experience. So do you mind starting there and diving in with that story?
I'm happy to. It was interesting. I have been an entrepreneur for many years, and I had my own little advertising company. Okay. And it was during all of the .com stuff and all of the new media was coming out. And it was just getting way too hard to handle. Everything was becoming difficult. Clients were more difficult. The margins were tighter. Everything cost more. It was just a real pain. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to make it better. Yeah. And I told my husband, I just have to stop thrashing. I have to just accept that there are so many areas of my life that are absolutely blessed and wonderful. And this one area kind of sucks, but oh well, suck it up, buttercup. I'll just make do. Yep. So then a month later, we're on vacation in New Zealand, and it's New Year's Day in Queenstown on the South Island. And we've had breakfast. We're walking around. They've got shops open. So we're poking in and out of shops. And all of a sudden I get this tunnel vision with little sparkles around the edges. And then my right arm goes numb and the left side of my face goes numb. Those are classic symptoms that you're having a stroke. So my husband quickly walked me to a medical center. They gave me an aspirin. They walked me through all these different things. And they're like, yeah, you're definitely having a stroke. And, there's not a whole lot we can do. We have to just kind of wait and see what happens. And I said, cool, can I just take a nap? Because I'm really tired. I just want a nap. And they said, sure, go ahead. As soon as I relaxed, I found myself inside this massive cloud. And I was a part of it, and it was a part of me. And I heard this cloud say, this is perfect. And somehow I knew that it was talking about me. And being a good little girl, I immediately replied, are you kidding? I don't speak multiple languages. I haven't solved world hunger. I haven't climbed Mount Everest. I am not all that, sweetie. Not a chance. And I immediately heard back this answer. No, you don't understand. You're designed with your skills, abilities, talents, interests, preferences, and your hot buttons, your issues, your faults, your foibles, all the things that drive you nuts, your opinions. And all of that is combined to create exactly what is needed right now. You are perfect.
Wow.
And all of a sudden it was like, ooh, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore.
Right.
And I realized every time I'd ask a question, the answer was there in my body, 360 degrees, more colors than we can see, more everything, words that don't exist in the English language. It was just beyond anything. It was incredible. And I finally kind of started running low on questions, and I'm having a marvelous time. I don't want it to end, right? I'm getting all the skinny from our higher power. I don't want to stop. And I hear, are you sure you're done? I said, no, we're in the middle of our vacation. We're having a blast. You should check. Oh, yeah, you probably know New Zealand's really awesome. And, and I heard back, no, you said you were done thrashing. If you're sure you're done, we can use that ectoplasm for something else. Are you sure you're done?
Wait, what's ectoplasm?
Ectoplasm, what you exist, your existence,
okay,
your energy. We can repurpose your energy for something else.
Okay.
I was like, I knew I was really close to something important. And if I decided to start over, it would be starting over. And I'd already accomplished so much. It was like, I'm going to keep going. And I heard, great, get back and get busy. And I came out of the stroke with no damage at all.
And it was actually a stroke? You were having a stroke?
Yes.
Wow.
It's considered a TIA because it didn't create any damage.
Okay.
And the only proof I have of my stroke is the hospital bill. I like that. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it shifted everything, because before my stroke, I didn't really woo much, let alone woo. Yeah. And now I'm real comfortable with the woo, because it really turned on the spigot. I started getting a lot more information from the divine. And now I get downloads all the time. They're real chatty, Kathy.
Oh, that is so fascinating. So are you saying that you weren't necessarily spiritually aligned or oriented before that experience?
I think, like a lot of people, I felt like I was kind of spiritual, but I didn't give it a lot of attention. Yeah, it's kind of like everything's in buckets and categories. You got your work, you got your family, you got your hobbies, and there's that spirit thing. Yeah. It was not an intense focus. It wasn't like I was going to church every week. But I think it also made a difference. I grew up as a Quaker, and in the Quaker religion, we do silent meeting for an hour. And during silent meeting, you open your heart to let God come in and shine a light on whatever it is you want some support with. And when you feel moved to do so, you then speak your truth to the rest of the congregation. So it's not really silent the whole time, but it's pretty silent. Yeah. And because I was used to that, and I know that I have this direct connection with the divine, it came through.
Wow. So, I mean, this sounds like a ridiculous question, but it's what's in my head. So I'm going to ask it. How did that change your life?
Oh, massively. Yeah, massively.
Right. That's why I said it seems like a ridiculous question, because I'm sure the answer is in every way. But speak to that a little bit, like concretely, how did it change your life?
So fundamentally, I got back from my vacation and I was kind of shell shocked, like, oh no, everything could change in an instant, right?
Were you a little shaken by it? Like, did it kind of rock your world a bit?
Well, to a degree, yes, because I was at my lifetime weight on Weight Watchers. I was in great shape. And I got home and I'm like, you mean you could take me out in an instant? Screw that. Hand over the cookies. And so I was not so good about my Weight Watchers anymore. Hate to say it. However, the other thing that happened, we ended up spending the next 10 years helping my parents and my in-laws with end-of-life issues.
Oh, wow.
And I was really blessed by that stroke, because as a result, I know that there's a whole lot more after this life. This is not the ending. It's a graduation when you go through that transition. Yes, you're in different physical form, but you're still there. And it was really interesting because after my father-in-law passed, I like to call him my father-in-love. My father-in-law passed. About a week later, I go walking in my neighborhood pretty much every morning, and I'd never noticed bluebirds. But all of a sudden, this bluebird showed up, and it would hop along the fence until it got my attention, and then it would fly overhead, the bluebird of happiness. Hey, sweetie, I'm good. Have a great day. And my dad always worried about me merging onto the freeway. Now he clears space for me. I always look, I always check, and I always thank my dad because he always creates space for me to merge. It's amazing.
That's so great. That's so great. So you came back, rocked your world a little bit, but sounds like in a good way. How did your husband respond? Like, how did it impact your relationship with your spouse and your marriage?
It's really interesting. It's really interesting you say that. So I'm going to answer your question, but I'm also going to add a little layer on top of that.
Okay.
There's a really, really powerful practice called I am. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Whatever you want to experience in your life, you say, I am, whatever that is, as if you've already experienced and you already have it.
Yeah.
And I read all about this in a fabulous book called A Happy Pocket Full of Money.
Oh, I know that book. I've read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
A Happy Pocket Full of Money. Love
One
it.
of my other podcast guests, Darnielle Jarvie Harmon, Dr. Darnielle Jarvie Harmon recommended
Yeah.
also. So I read it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that book. And in it, they talk extensively about how important I am goals are. And of course, being human, I immediately go, yeah, love the idea. But man, it would be so nice if there was like an example in my own life that
Yeah.
I could look at and go, hey, this really works. And then the divine hit me upside the head with a blinding flash of the obvious. And they reminded me about a conversation I've had many, many times with my then boyfriend, now husband, where I would say, darling, I am so happy and grateful that I get to share life with you. I am more in love with you every single day. I know it's not logical. I know it doesn't make sense. And I know there are plenty of times when I don't really listen or I don't get what you're talking about. But honestly, I am so grateful that you don't experience life the same way I do, because when I can hear you, it expands my world. I am so lucky that I get to share life with you.
Beautiful. What a beautiful.
And we've been together for 44 years.
44 years. What? You got married when you were 13? You don't look nearly old enough to be in a 44-year marriage. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just it's such a blessing. And so because we have that kind of a relationship where we're very open and loving and supportive of each other, and we talk about what's going on. I mean, obviously the stroke really freaked him out. I was only 43 at the time.
Wow.
And I was a little freaked out too, but we had to focus on our parents and helping them. And I slowly shut down my business, which was going nowhere anyway. And I completely changed gears to start talking about consciousness and abundance and how we connect with the divine, how we maintain that relationship.
Was that shift because of the awakening experience you had? You knew
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, you knew
well,
that.
Also because I got a very clear message from the divine that I had to share what I'd learned during my stroke. And I was like, oh yeah, no pressure. It was kind of like swallowing Google whole. And now I have to come up with some simple, easy to understand process. Are you nuts?
Wow.
And so it just started coming, right? I just started receiving the information.
Wow. So, so beautiful. All right. Well, then let's go there. So you received all this download, this information. By the way, you talk a couple things I want to go back to. You talked about the power of I am. Another dear, dear friend and colleague of mine is the author of the book called I Am by Howard Falco. He also had an awakening experience where he described the exact same, download of information that was completely overwhelming. And exactly the same to you. He was in financial services before his experience and left that field to become a spiritual teacher, consciousness teacher, and is still, in this field, just publishing his third book right now. So I say that to affirm and validate for our listeners that what you're talking about it's a thing. It's a real thing in consciousness where the portals sometimes open and you get this download.
And could I provide a little hint to the audience right now? Because your words have incredible power.
Yes.
And during my stroke, I have never experienced so much humongous, unconditional love. I mean, every atom in my body was pulsating with this overwhelming love. Just amazing. I call it a Niagara Falls of love.
Yeah.
And then I come back out of my stroke and it's business as usual. I'm like, wow, I would really like to have access to that. Bring me Niagara Falls every day. Thank you very much. And so I started doing all this research, and everybody said, well, you just have to allow. Use the word allow. You just have to allow the divine to send you messages. I was allowing my little heart out, and I would get messages every once in a while, but it was no Niagara Falls, let me tell you. So finally, one morning, I'd done my meditation and I'm journaling. I'm a little chapped, and I'm writing, why isn't this allowing thing working for me? I get back this message from the divine. It says, what is the image that comes to mind when you think of the word allow? Now, no two people have the same relationship with words. So I don't want to put anything on anybody else. I'm just sharing my experience and what I saw. I immediately saw myself behind a door with a chain on the door, and I'm peeking out the door at the divine, and I'm freaking terrified because I can't control it.
Yeah.
I don't know what's coming. It's so unpredictable. And suddenly I realized, oh, for me, the word allow is a mind-based word because my mind wants structure and processes and order, and like a guarantee would be really nice. Yeah. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. I can't have that kind of a relationship with the divine. That's silly. The divine knows so much more than I do. Like, I could control the divine? I don't think so. So I really had to think about, what is my word that is a heart-based word that really represents the kind of relationship I want with the divine? I had to think about it, but I finally realized that my word is welcome. Ooh. Now I welcome the divine. I welcome abundance. I welcome joyous, collaborative conversations with outstanding people like you. Because why not? It's a party. I took the door off the hinges and chucked the door. Don't need it anymore.
Yeah. I love that. And what you're speaking to is something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is how you language your experience in life. So for you, the vibration, the resonant energy of the word allowing had a restricted quality to it. And the word welcome, which I can totally get, has just a very expansive vibration to it that just put you in that beautiful space of receptivity.
Yeah. Then the messages started coming down all the time.
Yeah. I love that. I want to just share a brief, go ahead. You first, and then I'm going to share a story.
I think we should probably do your story because I might be changing tactics on you just a little bit here.
Okay, well, so let me go with this. I just want to share with our readers just something very practical of how to use what we're talking about right now. Something just happened to me a couple days ago. I was driving on the New York Thruway from the Mass Pike in Massachusetts to my summer home in upstate New York. I have an electric car, so I got out to do my charging station. And when I get out to plug in, I always have my phone because I need the apps or I need my credit card to plug in. When I am done my charging session, I never bring my phone because I just unplug and then off I go. But I was reading something on my phone and I walked out to unhook the charging cord and had my phone, put it on the trunk, unhooked, and drove off. Yeah. So I got, I don't know, 2 or 3, how long is it before we all have that thought of like, oh, where's my phone, right, when we're driving? So I was, 2, 3, maybe 5 miles down the road, and I was like, oh, my phone. And I reached for it on the seat next to me. I reached down in my lap, my phone. And then immediately I knew, like, so I pulled over on the side of the road. I looked under my seat. I looked on the floor. No. So I hop back in the car and I'm having, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. And then I caught myself, right? I caught myself and I said, that's not the energy and vibration of allowing. That's not the energy and vibration of faith and gratitude. So I immediately just changed my energy. Thank you, God, that I'm practiced at this. And I just started saying, thank you, God, I know it's there. Thank you, God, I know it's there. So I pulled out back onto the New York State Thruway and those illegal U-turn, don't do a U-turn here. I did a U-turn there. Went back down, the eastbound side of the thruway to the next no U-turn, illegal U-turn, don't do a U-turn here. I did a U-turn there, went back to the place, to the rest area. What was it? The Iroquois rest area just outside of Syracuse, New York. and saying to myself the whole time, thank you, God, I know it's there. And I pulled into the same spot where my EV charging had taken. I got out of the car. I looked all over, nothing. I had just a moment of like, "Ugh, you're so stupid. Why do you think that your thoughts are going to create reality?" Just not even, I didn't even have the full thought. Like I had that energy arise in me and I said, an affirmative, no, thank you, God, I know it's here. So I started tracing my steps to where I had driven. And as I reached the sidewalk from the parking area, you can picture it, right? So there's the parking area and then there's the rest area building and there's a sidewalk. I reach the sidewalk and I see this lovely older lady walking toward me, looking right at me. And so I kind of looked at her and thought, well, that's kind of weird. And I looked away and I start looking, thank you, God, I know it's here. But she had a very commanding gaze. And I looked back and I, we made eye contact. She said, "Are you Jackie?" I said, "Yes. Do you have my phone?" She said, "Yes." And she pulled it out of her purse and I gave her a big hug. And I went on to share the experience that I had just had. And I told her about affirmative prayer and managing my energy. And her name was Peggy. Her husband's name was Michael. And I said some affirmative prayer for Peggy and Michael. So they saw me drive off. They saw the phone go flying and they picked it up for me. Thank you, God. I know it's there.
Oh,
So what you're
beautiful.
saying, yeah, well, Elaine, this is how we roll, right? I mean, when you understand that your life gets created from the inside out, not the outside in, you can really have these experiences. I call it living in the domain of miracles or being in the frequency of miracles. And it's exactly what you are talking about of that allowing or that welcoming of the downloads of spirit. But you put yourself in that welcoming, allowing energy by using your mind to train your brain to not freak out when you have those human experiences of leaving the phone, whatever, missing a bill, not responding an important email, all those things that we do on the human domain. So easy to just fix it all and repair it all.
I love that story. I love that story because also fundamentally what you're talking about is remembering to love yourself.
Yeah. 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 I could have beaten myself up. And that was my initial impulse. I will say that. So I want to say that to our listeners. The initial impulse may still be there because we are in the human domain and the human frequency, but we have this incredible capacity to immediately, I call it the 3 C's. Elaine, I think you know this from my work: catch it, challenge it, and change it. And I was able to just catch myself right away having that very human reaction. Oh, geez. Oh, why? No, no, no. Challenge it. Oh, is that going to create my experience? No, 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 no. And then change it to thank you, God, I know it's there. Thank you, God, I
And
know it's there.
the other thing that's really interesting to me is the divine is always trying to show us good behavior,
Yeah.
right? It's like good dental hygiene and your dentist rewards you.
Yeah, right,
Right?
right.
Right? And so what happened? The divine made sure that your phone was there and proved to you that this really works.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, yes, thank you for committing again to doing what we have been telling you works, and you do it. And see, we showed you it works. So
exactly.
thank you. And then you share it with everybody else. It's things like that happen all the time.
Yeah, so great. So let's
Yeah.
go back to the point do you remember where you were going to go? You said you had a point that it was going to take us in a different direction. Do you remember it?
Actually, I have a different point that I want to
All
make.
right,
I
good,
do
good,
have
good.
that one still, but one of the messages that came through for me is that love is the blood of the divine. Love is the blood of the divine. And if you stop and think for a minute about what blood does, it
Mm-hmm,
brings oxygen and nutrients to all the cells in the body, and
mm-hmm.
it takes away all the stuff that isn't needed anymore.
Well, and it circulates.
It circulates and it goes really fast. But love is the blood of the divine, and you are the beating heart of the divine.
Mm-hmm.
You are pushing and pulling love through the divine.
That's
Now,
beautiful.
there are 3 key things that the divine wants us to do. The first one is be the love that's needed here right now. Love for yourself as well as love for others. Women are really good about being loving towards others and not so good about being loving towards ourselves. So,
Mhm.
yeah, both ways. It's a twofer. The second thing is notice the love that is already present here for you.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's like a scavenger hunt. It's exactly like your story of remembering, oh, I know it's here. Thank you, God. I know it's here. Thank you, God. I know it's here. And just training yourself and really, hiring the angels, the heavens to help you and achieve what you want. It's not automatic. It's something that requires you putting some skin in the game.
Yep.
But love is present for you. So look for the love, and you have to go deep and ask questions and do the behaviors that help you see and witness and experience the love.
So
The
beautiful.
third thing is get together with other people, because every time you do, you create more love automatically.
Right? So great.
Yeah.
It pains me to hear that we have a global epidemic of loneliness in our world today. And so that third point of, get together with other people, circulate the love. The more that you are in relationship with like-minded people, the more that the love grows and expands. So that's beautiful. Thank you. And I love that you're bringing this to the point of love, which I know is the blood, the circulation of abundance. So let's
Yes.
go there a little bit more, Elaine. You have some wonderful teachings on the connection between our consciousness and our abundance, as do I. You and I are twin sisters from different mothers about that topic. So let's go into your teaching a little bit about the correlation between consciousness and abundance.
Absolutely. It's really interesting, but if anything has an atom that vibrates, it has consciousness.
Yeah.
It
And
does.
everything has an atom that vibrates.
Exactly. That's my point. I was kind of hoping you would pick up on that.
Right,
Yeah, very
right.
subtle, but yeah, it's there. So everything has consciousness. The difference is in the level of awareness of consciousness.
Yeah, so great.
So being aware of how you're showing up
Yeah.
really makes a difference. And I got a really helpful definition just last year about the difference between my human self and my higher self.
Okay.
When I'm in my human self, I tend to feel an emotional reaction to something that's happening. And usually there's a sensation of I'm right and you're wrong. And the more I convince you that you're wrong, the more right I am. Thank you very much. And it doesn't really work that way.
Doesn't
My
work
human
so
self.
well. Yeah.
My human self is convinced, but that's how it works. Yeah, no. So it's very reactive, emotional and reactive, and insistent on being right. The same thing's happening, but when I'm in my higher self, I'm observing. And when I choose to respond, I respond with supportive love and grateful compassion.
So great.
It makes all the difference in the world. I don't have to really invest a lot of energy and effort there. What I want to do is be supportive and encouraging and uplifting and empowering so that you have the journey you need where you are in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. You can
Everything is designed to serve you.
Yeah, you can respond rather than react. I love that. And the methodology, because I teach that in my leadership work about being a responsive rather than reactive leader. But certainly it's, being a responsive rather than reactive human being, right?
Yes.
And you're saying the avenue to that is our ability to observe ourselves. So observe our thoughts rather than being our thoughts, rather than being that immediate knee-jerk emotional reaction. We can be the observer of the experience, the observer of the emotion, the observer of the thought, and then respond from a place of love.
Yeah, I had a conversation with the divine a few years ago where I was like, why do you keep showing me natural disasters and all the wars and all the, I try not to watch the news and listen to all that stuff that brings me down. And like, why? And why do you keep giving me opportunities where there's this friction, the difference between what is wanted and what is not wanted? Why do you keep popping me into my human self when I'm trying to stay in my higher self? What's that all about? And the message that came through is, honey, you're a lot like a fireman holding the hose.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're directing the divine energy where it needs to go. So we're in partnership with you, and we fully expect you to pony up and send love and blessings wherever people are impacted or involved in a challenging situation, including to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally love it. Elaine, you're bringing such depth and wisdom. And you know what else I like about what you're doing is you're making it so simple. And I think a lot of times this is what people miss, is the elegance and the simplicity of living life consciously.
Yes.
And I do like to say it's simple but not easy. And let's just talk about that a little bit. It's simple, not easy. First of all, it's not easy because it is so not the water that we're swimming in, if you will. Our cultural context is geared for distraction and for zoning out, for being unconscious. Our cultural context is unconsciousness. being overly busy, overly booked, overwhelmed, kind of feeling chaotic, and then the constant barrage of information by having a computer in our hands, basically 24/7. So that, even though it's very, very simple, we're not in a cultural context that's setting us up for living life consciously. But what are your thoughts about that, the simplicity of this and how people can embrace that more? I think sometimes people think, well, it can't be that easy. There's got to be more to it than that.
No, it is that easy. It is that easy. And what makes it hard is we're just not used to it. It's like when you tried to learn how to ride a bike. I remember I had those training wheels and it really chapped me that they didn't keep me up on the bike. And my dad was like, well, yeah, we want you to learn how to balance. So you don't need the training wheels. They're not supposed to actually support you on the bike. It's just supposed to slow your fall. And it's really helpful to realize this is a practice. It's not a one and done.
Yeah,
you are
it's
continually. And let me explain why this is a practice, because this helps you wrap your head around the value of all of those challenging experiences that you have throughout your life, and you will continue to have, regardless of how high your consciousness is. Because the way it was explained to me, everything is love. Absolutely everything. This pen, you are love, the traffic is love, everything is love. The divine is love. So here's the challenge. How do you expand the divine, which is love, if everything is already love?
Right.
They got crafty. They created human beings who don't think everything is love and don't necessarily experience everything as love. And then we have this choice. Whenever we see or experience that contrast, that conflict, we either step back in fear or step forward in love. And there's a sense of faith and vulnerability and openness, a not knowingness that everywhere around me are beautiful surprise presents. It's up to me to open and unwrap them so I can enjoy them. And I don't know what they are ahead of time. It makes it even more precious because I don't know what to expect.
Right. Which, as you said, requires a level of vulnerability and willingness to step in faith. So let's apply this then, because I can just imagine, right? I'm listening through the lens of our listener right now, where you're saying everything is love, even the traffic. And where my head went with that was some of the political strife that we're under right now, is authoritarianism love, is removing of rights and freedoms love, so that's kind of where the tunnel I went down. But let's apply it to prosperity. Let's say the listener, driving in their car right now is experiencing the condition of more bills than income. Or
I've been there.
Barely, sure. Yeah, me too. Or barely enough, income to just barely cover the bills with nothing left over, and it's exhausting. And so let's apply it to that situation, going back to the abundance notion, Elaine, because I know you have a lot to teach about this.
It's so important because every time we're given challenges like that, it's because the divine is cajoling, urging, pushing, encouraging, empowering, shoving, insisting that we step up with love. Love for ourselves and love for others. Now, it's really interesting. I love the book Power versus Force by David Hawkins. He has another one called The Map of Consciousness Explained that I like even better. And in that book, both books, he talks about how when you commit to showing up as love, and this is who I'm going to be, and this is my orientation, this is how I'm going to be in the world, immediately the opposite shows up because we live in a world of duality.
Yes.
And we are continually called to recommit, recommit, recommit. Now, one of the biggest challenges that I think we all deal with, especially when we're stuck in our human self and all that negative self-talk, that's why the positive self-talk is really powerful. When we go there, we create tunnel vision and we can barely see anything. We are so blinded and focused on just this problem that we can't see the solutions. And it's just like when you want to watch shooting stars. Yeah, you have to look at one part of the sky, of course, but then you open up your peripheral vision. So any little tiny stray glimpse of light, you catch the shooting star and you get to see it. Opportunities, blessings are all around us all the time. So our job is to use these tools that you and I both teach to open that peripheral vision.
Yep.
and welcome in the
Welcome it.
blessings.
Yes. Welcome in the answer, the solution, the blessings. I love that. I want to apply it a little bit to my life and my walk. I think Elaine, at some point I was homeless. I was so poor. I had to buy groceries with my mobile gas card because you couldn't use credit cards. Just a couple of things at the mobile mart. I certainly have had a long history of struggling financially, and I'm not in that place any longer. And one of the things that helped to move me into this place of abundance, living the life that I am, is in collaboration with my spouse. We always have said to each other, let's just push, because whenever we push beyond our comfort zone, things happen. We make it work. We celebrate a miracle here or there. And I can't tell you time and time and time again, whether it was deciding to adopt a child when we really didn't have the money to do so. It's an expensive process to do an international adoption, and didn't have the money to do so. But right at that time, right after we committed, I got involved with an investment company doing real estate investment. This is back in the 90s. And I started making just a lot of money doing this real estate investment. So much so that not only were we able to adopt our son, but we were able to go over to Guatemala, where he was living at the time before the paperwork was done, every 4, 5, 6 weeks, and spend a week with him, flying to Guatemala in the hotel. And so that our son was able to form at least somewhat of an attachment to us before he got uprooted from his foster family situation. And then, buying our house. My spouse at the time was still in graduate school, just graduated from graduate school at Harvard and didn't yet have a job. So it was just my income. But we found this house that we really loved. We'd only been together for 3 months at the time. 3 months. A friend of mine got her real estate license and was chiding me, "Come on, Jackie, buy a house, buy a house." Anyway, so we were like, whoa, what the heck? Why not? And we found one that we really loved, a waterfront home in central Massachusetts. Beautiful. And we're like, we don't have the money for this. How are we going to do it? And we're like, no, let's just do it. And then buying our first summer home, my great aunt and uncle's cottage, didn't have the money for it. Let's just do it. And now that was 18 years ago. Now we have my other great aunt and uncle's cottage right next door. We have 2 of them right next door to each other. And, every single time it's like, but every time we push, we do just fine.
Yeah, you have to believe in yourself. The
Well, you have
divine
to,
really wants you to believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, have dreams, dream big,
yeah,
dream
to me,
bigger than you think is possible.
it is about
Yeah.
dreaming big, but it was having faith in the universe. Because I don't
Yes.
know, honestly, I don't know how much faith I had in myself after, as I explained to you, homeless, kind of broke my all through graduate school. Oh, the other thing I did was I was a lab rat for medical research, and I would go in to do medical research testing for pay. They pay a couple $100
Sure.
to go in and let me use this part of my body or that part of my body. I mean, I did some crazy ass stuff, for no money. So I don't know how much it was believing in myself, but I'll tell you what I did believe in: universal law. Spiritual law consistently applied will create miracles in your life. And, yes, I do think belief in yourself helps. I'm a big fan of that. And certainly, I guess at this point I have that. But hands down, no question, I have belief in spiritual law consistently applied.
I'm jumping ahead a little bit because actually the divine is living all throughout your body. So when I say you're believing in yourself, you're believing in that collaboration with the divine that you have.
Yeah.
That's really what's happening. You are so aligned with the divine,
Yeah.
with those universal laws. You
Yeah.
are living from that space. You are embodying the divine when you choose to live from that space.
So great. So great, Elaine. I love what you're bringing here. This is such an important conversation. We probably should start wrapping up so our listeners can move on with their day, and you and I can move on with ours. I know I could talk to
I
you
want
all
to teach
day.
you all day. Come on,
We are
Jackie.
so aligned, and you just bring such wisdom and depth to what you're doing. So, and first of all, anything you want to leave people with before we wrap up, and then I'll ask where people can get in touch with you.
Yes, absolutely. There is a bridge that will get you where you want to go. Gratitude is the ignition switch to higher consciousness.
So true.
And so when you get into gratitude, it's often because there's something in the external world that caught your attention, like bird song or a great glass of iced tea on a hot day. Often it's something on the external world, but when you get into gratitude, it brings it back inside.
Yeah.
And then you start living from the inside out. When you start with gratitude, and that's where you come from, that's how you show up.
Yep.
Your voice changes.
Yeah.
The words you use change. Your eye contact changes. Your smile blossoms on your face.
Yeah.
You are so engaged and engaging that everything starts to shift. So really, truly, gratitude is that bridge that you want to get on to get to higher consciousness and get to all of this abundance that you'd like to experience in your life.
So, so beautiful. So, so beautiful. Just the last podcast interview I did was with a lovely man who wrote the book Gratitude to Awakening, or Awakening with Gratitude. That's what Awakening with Gratitude. And he had a very, very similar message about being in the vibration of gratitude and gratefulness for life, for everything around us. And as we spend this time together, Elaine, I just want to express my gratitude for you and for the vibration that you are bringing into this world through your work, through your marriage, through just who you are being. And, I just imagine you shining that sprinkly light of consciousness and love vibration, love energy to people at the grocery store and at the coffee shop and your neighborhood. And, I just am so grateful that you are one of the people out there sharing this message of awakening and of gratitude and of the energy of abundance and prosperity. So thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Jackie, and same to you.
Oh, yeah.
You're making a massive difference in the world. I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Where can people find you, Elaine, if they want to talk?
They can visit my website, theabundancejourney.com.
Fabulous. Wonderful. Yes. Awesome. So, so great. And I, really want to encourage our listeners. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for spending this time with us, because I'm going to affirm that your consciousness today has been risen through listening to this dialogue and this conversation. As always, feel free to reach out to me as well through my website. Let me know your feedback, your comments, and of course, make sure you leave a thumbs up or a positive review on our podcast platform. That always helps to spread the word through increasing our algorithms so more people know about conscious living. Thank you so much, Elaine. See you next time.